Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. We have ourselves one final series preview for the New York Yankees. It'll be the World Series between the Yankees and the Dodgers. And it just doesn't get much better than that. This is two of the most classic franchises in Major League Baseball. This will be the 12th World Series matchup between these two teams in the first since 1981. So there was a 41-year stretch from 1941 to 1981 where these teams faced off 11 times in the World Series, with the Yankees going 8-3 in those matchups. The most recent one in 1981, the Dodgers won that in 6. And 4 of them were when the Dodgers were in LA, and the other 7, the first 7, were when the Dodgers were in Brooklyn. So a lot of history between these two teams, but really it hasn't been ignited really much at all in recency. And it came close. There were definitely a few seasons where, whether it be preseason predictions or both teams in the CS, the one that stands out the most, and there may have been more than just this once, but 2009, when the Yankees played the Phillies beat the Dodgers in the NLCS that year. So that's just one example. And there may have even been others that were just as close to these two teams matching up. But it just hasn't happened until now. And, going into the season, as much as some may look back and say, oh, yeah, like that was a lot of the pundits and forecasters, if you will, experts predicted Dodgers Yankees. That really wasn't the case. I think for the Dodgers, it was. I mean, for the Yankees, I'm sure there were some that did, obviously with the acquisition of Juan Soto, but really, Yankees, I think, at least to me, and maybe my thoughts on it are different, but a lot of people felt as if the Orioles were going to win the division. I mean, if you had said it was Dodgers Yankees, no one would be shocked. But I think that on the one hand, this makes all the sense in the world. But also, if you do break it down, I think that the Dodgers were very much expected to be here. Although, if the Atlanta Braves, there was a lot of high hopes for them. If they had stayed healthy, they are obviously one of the premier teams in the league. Obviously, we know the Phillies are, upper echelon in the National League, but the Dodgers, they are able to get it done. And it wasn't so easy for them. They did finish with the best record in Major League Baseball with 98 wins. And look, more so against the Padres. And that's really been, the Padres have been sort of a kryptonite sort of team for them. Really, the NL West in general, when you think about it. Last year, they got knocked out by the Diamondbacks. And 2 years ago, they got knocked out by the Padres in the DS. They've had a tough time, making it deep in the playoffs. Now, obviously, they won the World Series in that COVID year in 2020. And I give them full credit for that. Look, the fact that I kind of did mention that it was the COVID year is kind of proof in itself that there is a slight bit of, there's a questioning of legitimacy. I don't really want to do that, but I understand some that would. So for them, there's that chip on their shoulder. They want to have that parade in LA. They want to have that, what you dream about with the fans sort of celebration. And so they feel like they have that, plus the fact that, look, besides that, they haven't won the World Series since 1988. So as much as the Dodgers have been, I would say easily, when you think about regular season, the last 10 years, Dodgers have been the most successful team. I'm not including postseason. Obviously, that's the Astros. And there was a head-to-head matchup in 2017 between the Astros and Dodgers that the Astros won. Forgetting about the fact that there was, cheating going on. We're not going to talk about the Astros here. But yeah, for the Dodgers, there's a lot on the line, obviously. And, with bringing in Shohei Ohtani, Yoshi Yamamoto, there's a lot of pomp and circumstance behind the Los Angeles Dodgers, a lot of pressure to live up to the heights. And they've had really a ton of injuries, especially with the pitching. Tyler Glass now being the big one. He is one of the best pitchers in baseball, and he's not in the mix. And so, I guess I'm sort of transitioning from the historical lens to the current, but this is sort of a dream matchup for Major League Baseball and for fans of the game. It's superstars. It's the two biggest markets. It's going to be a lot of fun. Really, I think this, you hope, is going to draw a lot of eyeballs, and I think it would. And if I had to guess, and I'll make my prediction at the end of the episode, you got to think logically that this is going to go 6 or 7 games. Pretty evenly matched. I see that, and this is not a surprise. I see the Dodgers, DraftKings and FanDuel, having the Dodgers as a slight favorite, and I'm not surprised that's the case as well. But the Dodgers, they're able to get by the Padres in round one, and that was like their toughest test. It was looking really bad for them against a really good San Diego team, and they were able to find a way down 2-1 to really win handily in San Diego in game four. And Yamamoto and the rest of the pen pitched a really good game five. Then against the Mets, the Dodgers win it in six. And the Dodgers offense really, really stepped up to the plate. The Dodger pitching was not so good. I mean, Jack Flaherty had a really good game one. He was very bad in game five. But they were able to find a way. And the Dodgers were the better team. Look, the Mets had a great run. They went further than really anyone would have expected, but the Dodgers simply were better. And so that leads you to the Dodgers against the Yankees here. And as far as regular season head to head, not a lot to make of that. So they played against each other in June. Now, I actually was at the first game of that series between Yamamoto and Cody Poteet. Mind you, from a Yankee perspective, Juan Soto missed the entire series. And at the time, I remember thinking, damn, like that of all times for Soto to be out against the Dodgers was pretty unfortunate for someone that really was essentially healthy for basically the whole season. He was dealing with, some other random injuries here and there, but for the most part, he didn't miss many games, but he did miss that series. And the Dodgers were able to win that first game in extra innings in a very, very low scoring game. In fact, I think it might have been a shutout through nine, if I remember correctly. And the Dodgers won that game. Then game two was between Nestor Cortez and Gavin Stone. Gavin Stone, he's hurt, and so we won't see him in the series. And Nestor Cortez actually hurt as well. Nestor is very likely to be back for this World Series, which is really good news. I think that Nestor will be more in a bullpen role for many, many reasons. I think that is, and I think that he could be useful. I mean, as we saw in this the Yankees Guardians series, and for the Dodgers Mets as well, like you need just about every single pitcher in this best of seven. Like you'd be surprised, and so I think Nestor will have a role there. But it was Cortez versus Gavin Stone. Dodgers won that game. That was close for a while. Teoscar Hernandez was a stud. Like he was like unbelievable in that series. It was like 8 to 10. I'll make it a bigger range. He had like 8 to 12 RBIs in that 3-game set. It was something crazy. He was unbelievable. And a lot has changed since then, obviously, in terms of health. And speaking of that, the last game was Sunday Night Baseball, Luis Gil versus Tyler Glasnow. And as I said before, Glasnow's after the season. Gil at that time was one of the best pitchers in baseball. So, and now, things have changed a little bit there. Not that Gil's been bad, just, he only got that one start against Cleveland in game four. And I think we will see Gil start a game against the Dodgers. And Trent Grisham actually was the highlight of the night where Trent Grisham hits a really big home run. And he is someone, and let's kind of move over to the roster with that. So Trent Grisham had that big home run. He's been on both ALDS and CS rosters, but did not appear in either game. And I'm not surprised by that. That's like his role. Like, unless it was a complete emergency situation. But so I think let's try to keep it somewhat simple. As far as this World Series roster goes, assuming that Nestor Cortez is back healthy, which it sounds like it, I would venture to guess that he will be on there. And I would think that he would take the spot of Marcus Stroman, a 1-for-1 thing. Now, Stroman didn't appear in the Cleveland series. It never came to be that he did. Cortez, I think, would take the place of Stroman. However, and this is really relevant to, I would say, Grisham, is there a world where they go 13 pitchers, 13 hitters? I do think that's possible. And then if that's the case, I would think that Nestor would take the spot of Trent Grisham. I would think that'd be most logical to me. Now, as far as Duke Ellis being on the roster, that would seem unlikely. Like in terms of here's the other thing, like Duke Ellis for Trent Grisham. They didn't do it last round, so I don't think they do it this round, but that's something to just keep in mind. If there was one hitter to be put on there, it would be Duke Ellis, but I don't think that will happen. I think they're more focused on pitching. So again, Cortez is going to be on it if he's healthy. Probably for Stroman, but maybe for Grisham. And then other pitchers to keep in mind would be Cody Poteet, who I mentioned before. Like, you never know, maybe. or also Clayton Beeter. And the funny thing about Beeter is that he actually came through the Dodgers system. The Yankees got him in that Joey Gallo trade. Again, I wouldn't expect that, but those are names to think about. This is not going to be some overhaul as far as the roster goes. Again, the biggest thing for me is, are they going to go from what we saw in this round of 12 pitchers to 13? Probably in consideration, but we won't know this for a while as the World Series doesn't start until Friday. So that's not news that we'll be privy to for a bit. As far as and this list is not extensive, former Dodgers on the Yankees. There's two, and it's Alex Verdugo, who came up in the Dodgers system, played parts of 3 seasons with the Dodgers, never got any postseason run, I don't believe, with the Dodgers, but he was on LA and was traded to the Red Sox in that Mookie Betts deal. So I'm sure you'll hear that get brought up a little bit here and there, but for Alex Verdugo, a little extra chip on his shoulder, knowing that they traded him away. And then also Tommy Kahnle, kind of forgotten about. He was on the Dodgers in 2022, only briefly. He was coming back from injury, came back late in the season, and actually was fantastic, which kind of led to him being brought back by the Yankees heading into the 2023 season. So Kahnle, again, recently with LA, but I think a lot of Yankee fans wouldn't have even really remembered that or thought of that, but he was. And then on the Dodgers side, it is a name that no one really should remember. It's Anthony Banda, the lefty, who had 2 appearances and he got like knocked around in 2022. So about as random as it gets with Banda. Speaking of lefties, like more thoughts here. Alex Vesia, he was out in this Met series. He will be a very, very, very important piece to get back for the Yankee series. My gut tells me that he will be back. If he's not, that's a big loss because the Dodgers don't really have that much lefty pitching, which bodes very well for the Yankees. Yankees struggle versus lefties in the regular season as well as the postseason. The numbers bear it out. And all the Dodgers have, to my recollection, is Banda. I don't believe there's another lefty in that whole staff rotation, which is Yamamoto, Flaherty, and Buehler, or anyone else. So Vesia, who's really good, like that is one that is paramount to LA. And I'm going to guess, because the injury wasn't terrible from what I can recall, that he suffered in that last game against the Padres. If there's any chance for him to be on, he will be on that roster. Some thoughts on LA. It's not as extreme as the Yankees, but the Dodgers, similar to what it was with Cleveland, but it didn't end up playing a role. The Dodgers are better versus left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching, which again kind of bodes well. The Yankees staff, it's a mainly righty. Well, it is. It's pretty much righty. Now, obviously, that's natural anyway. There's way more right-handed pitching than left-handed pitching, but just in general, 3/4 of the staff is righty. Now, obviously, Rodon, is a southpaw, and then Tim Hill and Tim Meza as well. But I think it's more so from the Dodgers side. Their lack of lefty pitching is really big with this Yankee lineup. That was the concern with me with the Mets. They can throw a lot of lefties at you from the rotation standpoint with Manaea, Quintana, and then even Peterson, if you want to go that far. The Dodgers can't do that, and so that's a big difference for them. This Dodger lineup is loaded. Very, very loaded. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani, front and center, MVP, nationally MVP. His numbers with runners in scoring position are out of this world. He's like 18 for his last 22. Like, that's not even real numbers. Just crazy. Mookie Betts, who the Yankees know very well from his days with the Red Sox. One of the best players in the game. Now, what's interesting, Freddie Freeman, he is battling an injury. Both first basemen. Obviously, Freeman, his powers and skills are a lot better these days than Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo obviously dealing with the hand issue. Freeman, ankle. Which has caused him to miss games in this Mets series. Now, obviously, it helps to have like these 5 days off will be good on Freddie Freeman, but he has struggled since this injury occurred. You also have Teoscar Hernandez, who had a rough NLCS, but kind of picked it up towards the end, the last game specifically. Yankees are very familiar with him with his days with Toronto. It's very deep though. Max Muncy, who's a really good power hitter who walks a lot. Muncy had a very good NLCS. Tommy Edman won the NLCS MVP, the former St. Louis Cardinal. He was fantastic. He was rumored to be traded to the Yankees in a deal involving Nestor Cortez. Think Harrison Bader for Jordan Montgomery, something like that. But that didn't happen. And instead, he got traded to the Dodgers. So he's going to be tough to deal with. There is also Will Smith. And Will Smith hasn't been great, but still, one of the better catchers in baseball is Will Smith. Kike Hernandez, who's a postseason machine. The Yankees accustomed with him in recent years with the Red Sox, and he's given the Yankees problems as well. So Kike is going to be tough in the postseason to go up against. There's Gavin Lux at second base. Chris Taylor doesn't have as big a role as he used to, but he's in there a little bit versus lefties. Andy Paez, center fielder, you'll see him a bit versus lefties. Trying to think if I'm forgetting anyone else. I don't know that Miguel Rojas will be. I know Rojas, he was not on the NLCS roster. Not sure of his injury status. Kevin Kiermaier is a defensive replacement center fielder who the Yankees are used to forever in his time with the Tampa Bay Rays. I think that's pretty much most of it that I mentioned. So it's a deep, I would say the Dodge lineup is deeper than the Yankee lineup. Not to say the Yankees won't outscore them. Again, when you're getting what you're getting from Giancarlo Stanton and Juan Soto and Gleyber Torres, and with the hopes that Aaron Judge can turn it around, that is, very good top end production. But the Dodgers are no joke for sure. And I think for the Yankees, the path is to get to that starting pitching. Yamamoto and Flaherty and Buehler, honestly, all three of them, they're still high upside there. Like, they can pitch a gem, but also the floor is pretty low. Like, when they're not good, it's pretty bad. And so this is, you look at the rotations, I give the edge to the Yankees. I do. And you're looking for Garrett Cole to step up. It's been a very up and down, more down postseason for Cole. And he's going to play a really big role in this World Series, presumably starting game 1 and then likely game 5. It's important for Cole to give the Yankees everything he's got and give them length as well. But that Dodger bullpen's strong, especially Blake Trinan. Blake Trinan is kind of like the Luke Weaver. He is going to be at the back end of that bullpen, giving you potentially 2 inning saves. So there's Blake Trinan, there's Daniel Hudson, Michael Kopech, who was a trade deadline acquisition from the White Sox. Ryan Brazier, who the Yankees remember from his days at the Red Sox. He's not great. He's kind of more towards the bottom of their pecking order. But those are just, some to name a few. Again, Alex Vesia is very important if he is back. And yeah, it's kind of mixing and matching. That's what the Dodgers do. And they will have a bullpen game as well. Whereas the Yankees will have 4 traditional starters. One of the starters for the Dodgers, it's going to be a bullpen game. So that's why it's very important for the Yankees to get into that Dodger bullpen. But all's to say, really, really excited for Yankees-Dodgers. It's going to be a good one. This is such a step up. I mean, obviously, not taking anything away from Kansas City and Cleveland, but the level of competition is increasing and increasing. And the Dodgers are no joke. They are going to give the Yankees everything they have and vice versa. And so this is the most frequent World Series matchup, but it's one that we have not seen since 1981. So in the sense of the late 70s, early 80s, this is similar to the Kansas City, obviously with Cleveland, that was more of like my era of time, where that's the Cleveland stuff is within the last 25 plus years. Those matchups were frequent. This, if you're a fan in the late 70s, early 80s, what you remember would be matchups against Kansas City and LA. And that's what you're getting here. So very, very excited. My prediction, I'm going to go with my heart on this one, and I'm going to say Yankees in 7. Now, my predictions previously were somewhat on the conservative side. I went Yankees in 5 against Kansas City. They won in 4. I went Yankees in 7 against Cleveland, and they won in 5. Even though that was misleading. Really, that was closer than a 5-game series. And I'm going to go Yankees in 7. And look, the 2-3-2 format, I think, is very advantageous to the home team. And the Dodgers are very good at home. So in all likelihood, if the Yankees are to win the series, it's going to have to be in LA. However, the Yankees are road warriors. The Yankees are basically better on the road than they've been at home. So I do trust them that if it comes down to it, that they can, win the World Series at Dodger Stadium. But there's going to be some crazy memories and moments, and I can't wait to just soak it all in. It's exciting for the Yankees to be back in the World Series for the first time in 15 years. And here we go. It's going to all start on Friday. Game 1 at Dodger Stadium. New York Yankees, Los Angeles Dodgers. This will be the 12th time that these teams have met in the World Series, the first since 1981. Buckle up. This is going to be a good one.